I lost everything on a Tuesday. Not gradually. Not over years of bad decisions or slow decay. I lost it all in a single courtroom on a cold March morning when the judge's gavel came down and my son, my only living child, walked out with my home, my money, and my grandchildren, leaving me with nothing but the clothes on my back and a heart so shattered I didn't know if it would ever beat right again. If you're watching this from anywhere in the world, comment below and tell me where you are. I need to know I'm not alone in this. That someone, somewhere, understands what it feels like when the people you die for become the ones who destroy you. And please, if you've ever felt betrayed by family, hit that subscribe button. Share this story. Check the description box below for more stories like mine. Because I promise you, what I'm about to tell you will make you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty, love, and revenge. My name is Eleanor Pritchard. I'm 63 years old now, though some days I feel like I'm 103. I raised 2 sons in Palo Alto, California, in a beautiful $5 million mansion that my late husband, Robert, and I built from the ground up. Robert was a software engineer who got in early with a tech startup in the 90s. When the company went public, we became wealthy beyond our wildest dreams. We weren't billionaires, but we were comfortable. More than comfortable. We had everything. Until we didn't. Robert died of a heart attack 7 years ago. Sudden. Shocking. One morning he was drinking coffee and reading the Wall Street Journal, and by noon he was gone. Our older son, Timothy, was 34 then. He'd just gotten married to a woman named Vanessa, a stunning brunette with perfect teeth and an MBA from Stanford. She seemed so polished, so together. I thought Timothy had found his match. Our younger son, James, had died 3 years before Robert. A car accident on Highway 101. He was only 27. James had been the gentle one, the poet, the boy who brought me wildflowers and wrote me letters on my birthday. Timothy was the ambitious one, the one who followed in his father's footsteps, who wanted to build empires. After James died, and then Robert, Timothy was all I had left. I should have seen it coming. The way Vanessa looked at the house. The way she measured the square footage with her eyes. The way she smiled at me during family dinners, a smile that never quite reached her eyes. But I was grieving. I was lonely. I wanted to believe that my son loved me, that his wife welcomed me, that I still had a family. I was so wrong. It started small. Timothy suggested I add his name to the deed, just for estate planning purposes, he said. To make things easier when I passed. He was my executor anyway, he reminded me. It made sense, didn't it? I signed. Then came the joint bank accounts. Mom, let me help you manage your finances. You've been through so much. Let me take care of you. I agreed. Then came the slow isolation. Vanessa stopped inviting me to family dinners. Timothy stopped returning my calls as quickly. When I'd show up unannounced to see my grandchildren, 8-year-old Luke and 6-year-old Mia, Vanessa would answer the door with that tight smile and say, "Oh, Eleanor, we weren't expecting you. The kids are busy with homework. Maybe next time." Next time never came. I started feeling like a ghost in my own life. Like I was disappearing, piece by piece, and no one noticed. Or worse, no one cared. Then came the lawsuit. Timothy filed a conservatorship petition, claiming I was mentally incompetent to manage my own affairs. He cited erratic behavior, memory loss, and emotional instability. He had a doctor, a psychiatrist I'd seen exactly once after Robert died, testify that I showed signs of early dementia. I didn't have dementia. I was grieving. There's a difference. But the court didn't see it that way. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s with wire-rimmed glasses, listened to Timothy's lawyer spin a tale about a deteriorating widow who couldn't be trusted with her own money. Vanessa sat beside Timothy, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, playing the role of the concerned daughter-in-law. I sat alone on the other side of the courtroom with a public defender who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. When the judge granted Timothy full conservatorship, I felt my chest tighten. When she awarded him the house, the bank accounts, and even control over my ability to see my grandchildren, I felt my world collapse. "Mrs. Pritchard," the judge said, looking at me over her glasses, "your son has demonstrated that he has your best interests at heart. I'm granting him full legal and financial authority over your estate. You'll be allowed supervised visits with your grandchildren at his discretion." At his discretion. That's when Vanessa turned to me, her face lit with a smile so cruel it could have cut glass, and whispered just loud enough for me to hear, "You'll never see the kids again." She laughed. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a soft, satisfied chuckle that told me she'd won. And I'd lost everything. I don't remember leaving the courtroom. I don't remember the drive to the Motel 6 where I spent the next 3 nights, crying into a scratchy pillow and trying to figure out how my life had come to this. I don't remember much of those first days at all, except the crushing weight of betrayal and the suffocating silence of a phone that never rang. Timothy didn't call. Vanessa didn't call. No one checked on me. I was alone. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved, someone you trusted with your whole heart, you know exactly how I felt in that moment. That hollow, burning ache in your chest. That disbelief. That rage. I didn't know what to do. I had no money. No home. No family. And then I remembered James. My sweet, gentle James, who'd left me a small house in Dayton, Ohio. He'd bought it years ago as an investment property, back when he thought he might move there for work. It was modest, nothing like the mansion in Palo Alto, but it was mine. He'd left it to me in his will, a detail Timothy either didn't know about or had forgotten. It was the only thing I had left. So I packed the few belongings I'd managed to grab before Timothy changed the locks, bought a one-way Greyhound ticket, and left California behind. I thought I was going to Ohio to survive. I had no idea I was going there to uncover the truth. The bus ride from California to Ohio took 3 days. 3 days of staring out a grimy window at endless stretches of highway, farmland, and small towns that blurred together. 3 days of sitting next to strangers who smelled like fast food and stale cigarettes. 3 days of replaying that courtroom scene over and over in my head. Vanessa's laugh, Timothy's cold indifference, the judge's gavel sealing my fate. I barely slept. I barely ate. I just sat there, numb, clutching a small duffel bag that contained everything I owned, 2 changes of clothes, a toothbrush, a photo album, and the deed to James's house. When the bus finally pulled into Dayton, it was raining. Of course it was. The universe had a sick sense of humor. I stood on the curb outside the Greyhound station, water soaking through my coat, and realized I didn't even know how to get to the house. I'd never been there. James had shown me photos once, years ago, but I couldn't remember the address. I dug through my bag, found the deed, and read the address scrawled in James's handwriting, 412 Maple Grove Lane. I flagged down a cab, one of those old, beaten-up sedans that smelled like air freshener and regret, and gave the driver the address. He looked at me in the rearview mirror, his eyes crinkling with something that might have been pity. "You sure about that address, "Yes," I said, though I wasn't sure about anything anymore. The drive took 20 minutes. We left the bus station, passed through a strip of fast food chains and gas stations, and then entered a neighborhood that looked like it had been forgotten by time. The houses were small, with peeling paint and sagging porches. Some had boarded-up windows. Others had yards overgrown with weeds. This wasn't the Ohio I'd imagined. This wasn't the charming Midwest you see in movies. This was poverty, decay, abandonment. When the cab pulled up to 412 Maple Grove Lane, I felt my stomach drop. James's house was a small, 2-story structure with faded yellow siding and a roof that looked like it might collapse under the weight of the rain. The front yard was a tangle of tall grass and brambles. The porch steps were cracked and uneven. It looked like no one had lived there in years. "This it?" the cab driver asked. I nodded, unable to speak. He popped the trunk, and I grabbed my duffel bag. I paid him with the last of my cash, money I'd hidden in my coat pocket before Timothy took everything, and watched him drive away, leaving me alone in the rain. I stood there for a long time, staring at the house. This was it. This was all I had left. A crumbling house in a forgotten neighborhood in a city I didn't know. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to get back on that bus and go, where? I had nowhere to go. No one to call. No one who cared. So I walked up the cracked porch steps, found the key under a loose brick where James's lawyer had told me it would be, and unlocked the door. The inside was worse than the outside. The air was thick and musty, heavy with the smell of mold and old wood. The walls were stained with water damage. The hardwood floors were warped and creaking. Dust covered every surface, thick as snow. I walked through the small living room, past the kitchen with its yellowed linoleum and broken cabinets, and down a narrow hallway to the basement door. The door was old and wooden, with a brass handle that was cold to the touch. I hesitated for a moment, then opened it. The stairs leading down were steep and narrow, and the air grew colder with each step. I found a light switch at the bottom and flipped it, but nothing happened. The bulb was dead. I used my phone's flashlight to navigate the basement. It was unfinished, concrete floors, exposed pipes, and a furnace that looked like it hadn't worked in a decade. There were boxes stacked in the corners, covered in dust and cobwebs. Old furniture, broken tools, junk. And in the far corner, behind the furnace, I saw something strange. A door. Or what looked like a door. It was small, maybe 4 feet tall, and painted the same color as the wall, like someone had tried to hide it. I walked over, crouched down, and ran my hand along the edge. It was definitely a door. And it had a lock, an electronic keypad lock, the kind you'd see on a safe. Why would James have a locked door in his basement? I tried the handle, but it didn't budge. The keypad glowed faintly in the dark, waiting for a code. I didn't know the code. I didn't know why the door was there. I didn't know anything. But I knew I'd find out. I left the basement, went back upstairs, and spent the rest of the evening trying to make the house livable. I found a broom and swept the floors. I wiped down the counters. I opened the windows to let out the musty air. It wasn't much, but it was something. That night, I lay on an old mattress I'd found in one of the bedrooms, staring at the ceiling, thinking about that door. James had always been secretive. Even as a kid, he kept journals and locked boxes. He liked puzzles, mysteries, hidden things. He used to leave me scavenger hunts on my birthday, little clues that led to a gift. What if this was one of those? What if he'd left me something? I thought about the keypad. Electronic locks usually required a 4 or 6-digit code. It could be anything, a date, a number, a combination. But if James had left this for me, he'd want me to figure it out. I thought about the dates that mattered. His birthday. Robert's birthday. Timothy's birthday. And then it hit me. My birthday. March 14th. 03-14. Or maybe 6 digits, the 14th of March 1962. I sat up, my heart pounding. I had to try. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and went back down to the basement. The air felt colder this time, heavier, like the house itself was holding its breath. I crouched in front of the door, my hands shaking, and entered the code, 0-3-1-4-6-2. For a moment, nothing happened. And then I heard a soft click. The lock disengaged. The door opened. I don't know what I expected to find. Money. Maybe. Old photos. Some forgotten piece of James's life. But what I found was so much more than that. Inside the small room, barely big enough to stand in, was a metal filing cabinet, a wooden desk, and a corkboard covered in photos, newspaper clippings, and handwritten notes. And on the desk, in the center, was a sealed envelope with my name written on it in James's handwriting. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I opened it slowly, carefully, and pulled out a letter. The first line made my blood run cold. Asterisk asterisk, if you're reading this, Mom, then I'm dead. And Timothy killed me. Asterisk asterisk. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen, staring at those words. Asterisk Timothy killed me. Asterisk. It didn't make sense. James had died in a car accident. The police report said he'd lost control on a rainy night, veered off Highway 101, and crashed into a tree. The toxicology report came back clean. No drugs, no alcohol. The investigators ruled it an accident. Robert and I had mourned. We'd buried him. We'd moved on. Or tried to. But here, in my dead son's handwriting, was an accusation so monstrous I couldn't breathe. My legs gave out. I sank to the floor of that tiny hidden room, the letter clutched in my shaking hands, and I read the rest. Asterisk Mom, asterisk. Asterisk, if you're reading this, it means something happened to me. And if something happened to me, it wasn't an accident. I know how this sounds. I know you're probably confused, maybe even scared. But I need you to trust me. I need you to believe me. Asterisk. Asterisk Timothy is not who you think he is. Asterisk. Asterisk I've been investigating him for the past 2 years. I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to worry you, and honestly, I wasn't sure if I'd find anything. But I did. And what I found is worse than I ever imagined. Asterisk. Asterisk Timothy has been embezzling money from Dad's company for years. He's been siphoning funds through shell corporations, fake invoices, offshore accounts. I have proof, documents, bank records, emails. It's all in the filing cabinet in this room. Asterisk. I confronted him about it 6 months ago. I told him I was going to tell Dad, that he needed to come clean and make it right. He laughed in my face. He said Dad would never believe me. He said I was jealous because I was the failure and he was the golden boy. Asterisk. But I think he knew I wasn't going to let it go. I think he realized I was serious. Asterisk, and I think is going to try to stop me. Asterisk Mom, if I die in an accident, it wasn't an accident. If I die in a robbery, it wasn't a robbery. If I die and the police say it was natural causes, it wasn't natural. Asterisk Timothy is dangerous. He's smart, calculating, and ruthless. And he'll do anything to protect himself. Asterisk I've left everything in this room, all the evidence, all the proof. I've made copies and hidden them in other places too, just in case. But if you're reading this, it means I didn't get a chance to expose him. Asterisk so now it's up to you. Asterisk I know this is a lot. I know you're probably scared. But you're stronger than you think, Mom. You've always been stronger than you think. Asterisk please. Don't let him get away with this. Asterisk I love you. Asterisk James. I don't know how long I sat there, crying. The letter blurred in my hands. My chest heaved with sobs I couldn't control. I felt like I was drowning, like the walls of that tiny room were closing in on me. James had been murdered. Timothy had killed him. And I'd spent the last 7 years loving the man who'd taken my son from me. The betrayal was so deep, so complete, that I couldn't process it. My brain refused to accept it. This had to be a mistake. A misunderstanding. James had been paranoid. Maybe. Depressed. He'd seen patterns where there were none. But then I thought about Timothy. The way he'd pushed me to sign over the house. The way he'd isolated me. The way he'd stood in that courtroom and lied, painted me as incompetent, took everything from me without a flicker of remorse. The way Vanessa had laughed. You'll never see the kids again. If he could do that to me, what else was he capable of? I wiped my eyes and forced myself to stand. My legs were shaky, but I steadied myself against the desk. I looked at the filing cabinet, the corkboard, the stacks of papers. This was it. This was the proof. I opened the filing cabinet. Inside were dozens of folders, each labeled with dates and names I didn't recognize. I pulled one out and flipped through it. Bank statements. Wire transfers. Invoices for services that were never rendered. Contracts with companies that didn't exist. And every single document led back to Timothy. I pulled out another folder. More of the same. And another. And another. James had been meticulous. He'd documented everything, every transaction, every lie, every trail. There were printed emails between Timothy and people with names like Victor Chen and Angela Rodriguez, discussing payments and disbursements. There were screenshots of offshore bank accounts in the Cayman Islands with balances in the millions. Timothy hadn't just embezzled. He'd stolen a fortune. And when James found out, Timothy had killed him to keep him quiet. I felt a rage building inside me, hot and sharp and all-consuming. It was unlike anything I'd ever felt before. I'd been angry before, angry at life, at fate, at the unfairness of losing Robert and James. But this was different. This was a fury that demanded justice. I looked at the corkboard. James had pinned photos of Timothy at various locations, restaurants, office buildings, a marina. He'd circled faces in some of the photos, drawn lines connecting people and places. It looked like something out of a crime thriller. But this was real. This was my life. I pulled out my phone and took pictures of everything. The letter, the documents, the corkboard. I didn't know what I was going to do with them yet, but I knew I needed to preserve the evidence. Then I sat down at the desk and tried to think. If I went to the police, what would happen? Would they believe me? Timothy was a respected businessman. He'd just won a court case painting me as mentally unstable. If I showed up with a letter from my dead son claiming Timothy was a murderer, they'd probably think I was delusional. And even if they did investigate, Timothy had money, power, connections. He'd hire the best lawyers. He'd bury the evidence. He'd walk away clean. No. Going to the police wasn't enough. I needed something more. Something that would not only expose Timothy, but destroy him. Something that would make him feel the same helplessness, the same betrayal, the same crushing weight of loss that I'd felt. I needed revenge. But I was a 63-year-old woman with no money, no resources, and no allies. How was I supposed to take down someone like Timothy? I didn't know. But I knew I had to try. If you've ever felt powerless, like the world was against you and there was nothing you could do, then you know how I felt in that moment. But here's the thing about powerlessness. It either breaks you, or it transforms you. And I refused to be broken. I stayed in that basement for hours, reading every document, memorizing every detail. By the time I finally went back upstairs, the sun was starting to rise. I made myself a cup of instant coffee, one of the few things I'd found in the kitchen that wasn't expired, and sat at the small dining table, staring out the window at the overgrown yard. I thought about James. About the way he used to smile, the way he used to bring me flowers, the way he used to say, "I love you, Mom," every time he left the house, like he knew he might not get another chance. He'd been trying to protect me. Even in death, he was still trying to protect me. I wasn't going to let him down. I pulled out a notebook and started making a plan. Step 1. Learn everything I could about Timothy's life. His business. His routines. His weaknesses. Step 2. Find allies. People Timothy had wronged. People who wanted to see him fall as much as I did. Step 3. Gather more evidence. James had given me a starting point, but I needed more. I needed something airtight, undeniable. Step 4. Expose him. Not just to the police, but to the world. I wanted everyone to know what he'd done. I wanted his name dragged through the mud. I wanted him to lose everything, the way I had. And Step 5. Step 5 was revenge. I didn't know what form it would take yet, but I knew it would be devastating. Because Timothy had taken everything from me, and I was going to take everything from him. The first thing I learned about revenge is that it requires patience. In the movies, the wronged hero hatches a plan, executes it flawlessly, and watches their enemy crumble within 2 hours. Real life doesn't work that way. Real revenge is slow. It's meticulous. It's agonizing. You have to live with your anger every single day, feeding it like a small, contained fire, never letting it burn out but never letting it consume you either. I spent the next 3 weeks in that house, barely leaving except to buy groceries at the corner store. I lived off canned soup and stale bread. I slept fitfully on that old mattress, my dreams haunted by James's face and Vanessa's laugh. But every waking moment, I studied. I read every document in James's filing cabinet. I cross-referenced names, dates, transactions. I made spreadsheets. Yes, at 63, I learned to use Excel because I had to. I watched YouTube tutorials on my cracked phone screen, taking notes in a composition notebook I'd bought at the dollar store. James had been brilliant. His investigation was more thorough than anything a private detective could have done. He'd traced Timothy's embezzlement back nearly a decade, to right after Robert first brought him into the company. Robert had been so proud when Timothy joined the business. "He's got a real head for numbers," he'd said. "Sharp as a tack." He was right. Timothy was sharp. Sharp enough to hide his theft for years. Sharp enough to create an entire network of fake vendors and shell corporations. Sharp enough to kill his own brother and make it look like an accident. The paper trail was complicated, but once you knew what to look for, it was damning. Timothy had created a company called Meridian Solutions LLC that supposedly provided consulting services to Robert's firm. In reality, Meridian Solutions was nothing but a P.O. box and a bank account. Every month, Timothy would approve an invoice from Meridian Solutions for anywhere between $50,000 and $200,000. The money would go into the Meridian account, then get transferred to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands and Singapore. He'd stolen over $8 million. $8 million. And that was just from one scheme. James had uncovered at least 3 others. I felt sick reading about it. This was the money Robert had worked his whole life to build. Money that should have secured our family's future. Money that should have gone to his grandchildren's education, to charity, to something meaningful. Instead, Timothy had pissed it away on God knows what. The documents showed purchases of luxury cars, a yacht, a vacation home in Aspen. While I'd been grieving my husband and son, Timothy had been living like a king on stolen money. But the money wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was the email I found buried in one of the folders. It was dated 3 days before James's accident. It was from Timothy to someone with the email address vchen2891@protonmail.com. The subject line was, "Problem needs handling." The body of the email was brief. Asterisk brother won't back down. Knows too much. Needs to look like an accident. Can you make it happen? Asterisk. The response came 6 hours later. Asterisk consider it done. 50k, usual account. Asterisk. I read that email 20 times, each time feeling my hands shake more violently. Timothy had ordered a hit on James. He'd paid someone to kill his own brother. I printed the email. I printed everything. I created a physical copy of every piece of evidence and stored it in a waterproof box I bought at a hardware store. I buried the box in the backyard, under a tree, where no one would think to look. Then I made digital copies and uploaded them to 3 different cloud storage accounts with passwords even I had to write down to remember. I wasn't going to let this evidence disappear. But evidence alone wasn't enough. I needed to understand Timothy's current situation. I needed to know his vulnerabilities. So I did what any reasonable person in my situation would do. I became a stalker. Well, a digital stalker anyway. I couldn't exactly fly back to California and follow him around. But I could follow him online. Timothy had always been active on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. He loved showing off his success, his perfect life. His profile pictures were professionally shot. His posts were carefully curated to project wealth, power, and philanthropy. Grateful to support the Children's Hospital Foundation with a $50,000 donation, one post read, accompanied by a photo of him shaking hands with a hospital administrator. $50,000. Money he'd stolen. Another post showed him and Vanessa at a charity gala, both dressed to the nines. Another wonderful evening raising money for cancer research, the caption read. The comments were full of praise. You're such an inspiration. The world needs more people like you. Your parents would be so proud. I wanted to vomit. But I kept scrolling, kept studying. I learned his patterns. He posted every Tuesday and Friday. He went to the same gym every morning at 6. He had lunch meetings at the same 3 restaurants. He spent weekends at the Aspen House during ski season. And Vanessa, oh, Vanessa was even worse. Her Instagram was a parade of luxury. Designer handbags. First-class flights. Photos of Luke and Mia at private tennis lessons and equestrian clubs. My grandchildren. The grandchildren I was forbidden from seeing. Luke looked so much like James it hurt. Same gentle eyes. Same soft smile. I zoomed in on every photo, hungry for details. Luke was missing a front tooth. Mia had gotten her hair cut into a bob. They looked happy. Did they even remember me? Did Timothy tell them I was dead? The thought made me want to scream. I forced myself to keep going, to stay focused. Revenge required a cool head. I started looking into Timothy's business. He'd taken over Robert's company after his death, renamed it Pritchard Consulting Group, and expanded aggressively. According to LinkedIn, the company now had over 200 employees and offices in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Austin. He'd also started appearing in business magazines. Young entrepreneur makes waves in tech consulting, one headline read. The article praised his innovative approach and commitment to ethical business practices. Ethical. Right. I dug deeper into the company's finances, or at least, the public-facing parts. The company's website boasted about its strong partnerships with major corporations. Press releases announced new contracts, new hires, new offices. Everything looked legitimate. But I knew the truth. Somewhere in those books, hidden in plain sight, was more theft. More fraud. I just had to find it. That's when I decided I needed help. James's evidence was good, but it was 7 years old. If I was going to take Timothy down, I needed current information. I needed someone on the inside. But who? I thought about Robert's old friends from the company. Some of them had stayed on after Timothy took over. But would they help me? Would they believe me? I made a list of names. There was Gerald Martinez, Robert's former CFO. There was Patricia Lin, head of HR. There was David Kowalski, one of the senior consultants. I decided to start with Gerald. He and Robert had been close. They used to play golf together every Sunday. Gerald had given a beautiful eulogy at Robert's funeral, talking about loyalty and integrity. If anyone would help me, it would be Gerald. I found his contact information through LinkedIn. He'd retired from Pritchard Consulting Group 2 years ago and was now doing freelance financial consulting. I sent him an email from a new account I'd created under a fake name. Dear Gerald *. My name is Dorothy Williams. I'm a freelance investigative journalist working on a story about corporate fraud in the tech consulting industry. I came across your name while researching Pritchard Consulting Group and wondered if you might be willing to speak with me on background. I understand you worked closely with the founder, Robert Pritchard, and stayed on after his passing. I'm particularly interested in understanding the company's financial practices during the transition period. Would you be available for a phone call this week? Best regards. Dorothy Williams. I hit send and waited. 3 days later, he responded. Dorothy. I'm not sure what you're looking for, but I'm not interested in speaking about Pritchard Consulting Group. I signed an NDA when I left the company, and I take those obligations seriously. However, if you're investigating what I think you're investigating, you should know that you're not the first person to ask questions. Good luck. Gerald. My heart raced. You're not the first person to ask questions. Who else had been investigating Timothy? And more importantly, where were they now? I wrote back immediately. Gerald. I appreciate your discretion. I'm not asking you to violate your NDA. But if you know of anyone else who might be willing to talk, I'd be grateful for a referral. This is important. Dorothy. He didn't respond. But 2 days later, I got an email from a different address. No subject line. Just a message. Meet me at Rose's Diner on Broad Street, Dayton, Ohio. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Come alone. I stared at the email for a long time. This could be a trap. This could be Timothy, somehow figuring out what I was doing. Or it could be the ally I desperately needed. I didn't have a choice. I had to go. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., I'd find out if I was walking into an ambush or a partnership. Either way, there was no turning back now. Rose's Diner was the kind of place that had probably been around since the 1950s and hadn't changed much since. Red vinyl booths, black and white checkered floors, a jukebox in the corner that looked like it hadn't worked in decades. The smell of grease and burnt coffee hung in the air. I arrived 15 minutes early and chose a booth in the back, facing the door. I ordered a coffee I didn't drink and watched every person who walked in. At exactly 2 p.m., a woman entered. She was younger than I expected, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail and sharp, intelligent eyes that scanned the diner before landing on me. She wore jeans, a plain grey hoodie, and carried a worn leather messenger bag over one shoulder. She walked straight to my booth and slid into the seat across from me without a word. Eleanor, she said quietly. My stomach dropped. How do you know my name? Because I've been investigating Timothy Pritchard for 3 years, she said. And you're his mother. I didn't know what to say. I just stared at her. She extended her hand. My name is Rachel Burke. I'm a forensic accountant. Or I was, until I got fired for asking too many questions. I shook her hand, my mind racing. You worked for Timothy? For 6 months, yeah. He hired me to clean up some accounting irregularities, or so he said. What he really wanted was for me to legitimize his fraud. When I started finding things that didn't add up, he fired me and threatened to sue me for breach of contract if I talked to anyone. But you kept investigating. Of course I did. Her eyes were fierce. I don't like being lied to. And I really don't like thieves. I leaned forward. How did you know I was here? How did you know to contact me? Gerald Martinez, she said. He forwarded me your email. We've been in touch on and off for the last year. He can't talk because of his NDA, but he knew I was looking into Timothy. When he saw your email, he put 2 and 2 together and realized you might be serious. Why didn't Gerald just tell me about you directly? Rachel smiled grimly. Because he's scared. Timothy has deep pockets and a team of lawyers who love making people's lives miserable. Gerald's retired. He doesn't want the headache. But he also has a conscience, so he passed me along. I studied her face. She looked tired, like she'd been carrying something heavy for a long time. What exactly did you find? She glanced around the diner, making sure no one was listening, then opened her messenger bag and pulled out a slim folder. She slid it across the table. "This is just a summary," she said. "I have boxes of documents at my apartment. But this should give you the basics." I opened the folder. Inside were spreadsheets, highlighted bank statements, and printed emails. "Timothy's been running the same scams your son documented," Rachel said, her voice low. "Shell companies, fake invoices, offshore accounts. But he's gotten more sophisticated. He's using cryptocurrency now to move money. Harder to trace. He's also expanded into real estate fraud, buying properties through LLCs, inflating their value, then using them as collateral for loans he never intends to repay." I felt dizzy. "How much?" "My conservative estimate? He's stolen somewhere between $15 and $20 million over the last 10 years. Maybe more. 20 million. But here's the thing," Rachel continued. "Timothy's not working alone. He has partners. People who help him set up the shell companies, people who launder the money, people who provide legal cover. It's a whole network." "Do you know who they are?" "Some of them." She flipped to a page in the folder showing a web of names and connections. "This guy, Victor Chen, he's a lawyer in San Francisco who specializes in offshore corporations. He's helped Timothy set up at least a dozen entities. And this woman, Angela Rodriguez, she runs a real estate investment firm that's basically a front for money laundering." I stared at the names. These were the people in James's emails. "My son found all this," I said quietly. 7 years ago. He was going to expose Timothy." Rachel's expression softened. "James. I know. I found his investigation files when I was digging into Timothy's history. Your son was brilliant, Eleanor. He built a case that should have put Timothy in prison for decades. But Timothy killed him before he could use it." Rachel nodded slowly. "I think so. I can't prove it, not yet. But I found something interesting." She pulled out another sheet of paper. 3 days before James died, there was a wire transfer from one of Timothy's offshore accounts to an account in Hong Kong. $50,000. The account belongs to a guy named Wei Zhong, who has known ties to organized crime. My hands trembled as I held the paper. So Timothy really did hire someone to kill James. I believe so. But again, proving it is another matter. Zhong's in Hong Kong. The account's been closed. The trail's cold. I set the paper down and looked at Rachel. "Why are you doing this? Why risk everything to go after Timothy?" She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Because my brother died too. Overdose, officially. But I think he was murdered." I felt a chill. By Timothy. Indirectly. My brother worked for Pritchard Consulting. He found out about some of Timothy's fraud and confronted him, just like James did. A week later, he was found dead in his apartment with a needle in his arm. The police ruled it a drug overdose, but my brother had been clean for 3 years. He wouldn't have relapsed. "I'm so sorry." "Yeah. Me too." She blinked hard, like she was pushing back tears. "So that's why I'm doing this. Because Timothy Pritchard destroys people and gets away with it. And I'm sick of watching him win." I felt something shift inside me. For weeks, I'd felt so alone, like I was the only person in the world who saw Timothy for what he really was. But here was someone else who understood. Someone else who wanted justice. Someone else who wanted revenge. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Access," Rachel said. "You're still technically Timothy's mother. You have legal standing to ask questions, request documents. I don't. If we work together, we can build a case that the authorities can't ignore. Timothy has a conservatorship over me. The court says I'm incompetent. Then we'll fight that too. We'll get you a lawyer, challenge the conservatorship, get you declared competent again. Once you have your rights back, you can demand an accounting of your estate. And once we have that, we can compare it to what I've found and expose the discrepancies." It sounded like a plan. A real plan. But it also sounded slow. Legal. Bureaucratic. And I didn't know if I had the patience for that. What if I don't want to go through the courts? I said quietly. Rachel raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if I want to hurt him? Really hurt him? Not just get him arrested. I want him to lose everything. His business. His reputation. His family. I want him to feel what I felt." Rachel leaned back in the booth, Studying me. That's dangerous territory, Eleanor. If you go outside the law, you could end up in prison yourself. I don't care. Yes, you do. You care about seeing your grandchildren again. You care about clearing James's name. You can't do any of that from a jail cell. She was right, of course. But the rage inside me didn't care about logic. So what do we do? I asked. We play the long game, Rachel said. We gather evidence. We build an airtight case. We take it to the FBI, the SEC, whoever will listen. And when Timothy gets arrested, when his face is plastered all over the news, when his company collapses and his assets get seized, that's when you get your revenge. Because he'll lose everything, just like you did. And he'll know it was you who made it happen. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that justice would be enough. But I also knew that Timothy was slippery, rich, connected. What if he found a way to wiggle out of it? What if he hired the best lawyers and cut deals and walked away with a slap on the wrist? I couldn't let that happen. Okay, I said. We'll do it your way. But if the system fails, if Timothy gets away with this, I'm going after him myself. Rachel looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Fair enough. We spent the next 2 hours going over her evidence. She showed me financial records, emails, transaction histories. She explained the schemes in detail, walking me through how Timothy had hidden his theft in plain sight. It was overwhelming. But it was also empowering. For the first time since that courtroom, I felt like I had a chance. I need you to do something for me, Rachel said as we were getting ready to leave. I need you to reach out to Timothy. I stared at her. What? Call him. Email him. Tell him you want to reconcile. That you're sorry for fighting the conservatorship. That you just want to see your grandchildren. He'll never believe me. Maybe not at first. But if you're persistent, if you play the role of the broken, apologetic mother, he might let his guard down. And if he does, you can get access to information we need. The thought of talking to Timothy made my skin crawl. But Rachel was right. If I wanted to destroy him, I had to get close. Okay, I said. I'll do it. We exchanged phone numbers and email addresses. Rachel promised to send me copies of all her evidence. I promised to document everything Timothy said or did. As I walked out of Rose's diner and into the gray Ohio afternoon, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. And behind it, burning bright and steady, was the promise of revenge. That night, I sat at the small dining table in James's house and drafted an email to Timothy. Dear Timothy, I know things have been difficult between us. I know I fought you on the conservatorship, and I'm sorry for that. I was confused and scared, and I didn't understand that you were trying to help me. I've had time to think, and I realize now that you were right. I wasn't capable of managing my own affairs. I'm grateful that you stepped in. I'm living in Ohio now, in a small house that James left me. It's quiet here, and I've been doing a lot of reflecting. I miss you. I miss Luke and Mia. I know I'm not allowed to see them, but I wonder if we could at least talk on the phone. I'd love to hear your voice. I'm not asking for much. Just a chance to be part of the family again. Please, Timothy. I'm your mother. I love you. Mom. I read it 3 times, hating every word. But I hit send. And then I waited. Timothy didn't respond for 5 days. 5 agonizing days where I checked my email every hour, my stomach churning with anxiety and rage. Part of me hoped he wouldn't respond at all, that I wouldn't have to pretend to be the broken, apologetic mother. But another part of me, the part that was fueled by vengeance, prayed he would take the bait. On the 6th day, he replied. Mom. I appreciate you reaching out. I know this has been hard on you, and I want you to know that everything I did was for your own good. Vanessa and I were genuinely worried about your mental state after the hearing. I think it's good that you've had time to reflect. Ohio sounds like a peaceful place for you. As for seeing the kids, I need to think about that. They've been through a lot, and I want to make sure any contact is in their best interest. Let me talk to Vanessa and we'll see. In the meantime, yes, we can talk on the phone. I'll call you this Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Timothy. I stared at the email, my hands shaking. Asterisk everything I did was for your own good. Asterisk. The gaslighting was so smooth, so effortless. He actually believed he was the hero in this story. Or maybe he didn't believe it. Maybe he just knew that's what he needed to say to keep me compliant. Either way, I had what I wanted. A phone call. A crack in the door. I forwarded the email to Rachel with a note. Asterisk he took the bait. Asterisk. She responded immediately. Asterisk good. When he calls, record it. I'll send you instructions. Asterisk. Rachel sent me a link to an app that would record phone calls. I downloaded it and practiced using it until I was confident I could start recording without Timothy hearing anything suspicious. Sunday came. At 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. in Ohio, my phone rang. I let it ring 3 times, trying to steady my breathing, before I answered. Hello. Hi, Mom. Timothy's voice was smooth, measured. The voice of someone in complete control. Timothy. I tried to sound emotional, vulnerable. It wasn't hard. Thank you for calling. I've missed you so much. I've missed you too. There was a pause. How are you doing? Really? I'm managing. The house needs a lot of work, but it's a roof over my head. I've been thinking a lot about the past. About your father. About James. Another pause. I think about them too. Liar. I wish I'd been a better mother to you, I said, forcing the words out. I wish I'd supported you more after your father died. You had to take on so much, and I wasn't there for you. Mom, don't say that. You did your best. Did I? Because it doesn't feel that way. It feels like I failed you. And now I've lost everything, including you and the grandchildren. I heard him sigh. You haven't lost us. You're still family. We just need some time to heal. Can I at least talk to Luke and Mia? Just for a few minutes. I won't say anything to upset them, I promise. Not yet, he said, his voice firm. They're still adjusting to everything. Vanessa thinks it's best if we wait. Of course Vanessa thinks that. I understand, I said, though it took everything in me to keep my voice steady. Can you at least tell me how they're doing? Are they happy? They're doing great. Luke's in 3rd grade now, and he's really into soccer. Mia's learning piano. They're both thriving. I closed my eyes, picturing them. My beautiful grandchildren, growing up without me. That's wonderful, I managed. I'm so glad they're doing well. We talked for another 20 minutes. Timothy asked about the house in Ohio, about what I was doing with my days. I kept my answers vague, painting a picture of a lonely old woman with too much time on her hands. He seemed to buy it. Before we hung up, he said, Listen, Mom, I'm glad you reached out. I think this is a good step for both of us. Let's keep in touch, okay? I'd like that. Good. I'll call you again in a couple weeks. Thank you, Timothy. I love you. There was a brief hesitation. Love you too, Mom. The line went dead. I sat there for a long time, staring at the phone, feeling sick. Then I played back the recording. His voice was clear. Every word captured. I sent the file to Rachel with a note. Asterisk first call done. He's suspicious but curious. I can work with this. Asterisk. Her response came quickly. Asterisk perfect. Keep playing the part. The more he trusts you, the more he'll reveal. Asterisk. Over the next month, Timothy and I fell into a routine. He called every other Sunday. Our conversations were surface level. Talk about the weather, about his work, about the kids' activities. I played the role of the grateful, submissive mother. I asked for nothing. I complained about nothing. I just listened and validated and waited. And slowly, Timothy started to let his guard down. In our 4th phone call, he mentioned that the business was expanding again. We just closed a major deal with a tech firm in Austin, he said, pride evident in his voice. $15 million contract. It's going to be huge for us. That's wonderful, honey. Your father would be so proud. I hope so. I'm trying to build on what he started, you know? Take it to the next level. Build on what he started. By stealing from it. I made a mental note to tell Rachel about the Austin contract. In our 5th call, he mentioned that he and Vanessa were thinking about buying a second home in Maui. We've been looking at some properties on the North Shore, he said. Vanessa's been wanting a place where we can go in the winter. A second home. With stolen money. That sounds lovely, I said. You both work so hard. You deserve it. He seemed pleased by that. In our sixth call, he finally brought up the possibility of me seeing the grandchildren. Vanessa and I have been talking, he said. We think it might be okay for you to have a video call with Luke and Mia. Just to say hi. Nothing too intense. My heart leaped. Really? Oh, Timothy, that would mean the world to me. We'll set something up for next week. But Mom, you have to promise me you won't say anything to upset them. No crying, no guilt trips. Just a nice, normal conversation. I promise. I just want to see their faces. Okay. I'll send you a Zoom link next Sunday. When that Sunday came, I was a wreck. I spent an hour trying to make myself look presentable. I put on makeup for the first time in weeks. I chose a cheerful sweater. I set up my laptop on the dining table with good lighting. At exactly 3 p.m., I clicked the Zoom link. The screen loaded, and there they were. Luke and Mia. Luke was taller than I remembered, his face leaner. He wore a soccer jersey. Mia's hair was longer, her smile shy. They both looked healthy, happy, well cared for. They also looked like they barely recognized me. Hi, Grandma, Luke said politely. Hi, sweetheart, I said, my voice breaking despite my promise not to cry. It's so good to see you. You've gotten so big. Mia waved but didn't say anything. We talked for 10 minutes. I asked about school, about their hobbies, about their friends. They answered in short, polite sentences. There was none of the warmth, none of the easy affection we used to share. Timothy had erased me from their lives. When the call ended, I closed the laptop and sobbed. But even through the tears, I felt a steely resolve hardening inside me. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about getting my family back. I called Rachel. I need to move faster. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep pretending. Eleanor, I know it's hard. No, you don't know. You didn't just see your grandchildren look at you like a stranger. Timothy's taken everything from me, including them. And every day I wait is another day he wins. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Okay. Then let's escalate. I've been working on something. A way to hit Timothy where it hurts. What is it? His business. Pritchard Consulting Group. I've been tracking his contracts, and I found something interesting. That $15 million deal he mentioned with the Austin tech firm? It's based on inflated credentials. Timothy's been lying about the company's certifications and past performance to win contracts. If we can expose that, the clients will pull out and the company will collapse. How do we expose it? We leak it to the press. Anonymously. I've been talking to a reporter at the San Francisco Chronicle who's been investigating corporate fraud. If I give her the evidence, she'll run with it. Will it be enough to take him down? It'll be a start. It'll damage his reputation, cost him clients, maybe trigger investigations. But Eleanor, once we do this, there's no going back. Timothy will know someone's coming after him. Good, I said. Let him know. Are you sure? I thought about Luke and Mia's faces on that screen. I thought about James's letter. I thought about everything Timothy had stolen. I'm sure. Okay. Give me 3 days to get everything to the reporter. Once the story breaks, things are going to move fast. 3 days later, the article hit. The headline read, *Tech consulting firm accused of fraud in major contract deals. The story detailed how Pritchard Consulting Group had misrepresented its credentials and experience to win contracts worth tens of millions of dollars. The reporter cited anonymous sources and internal documents showing a pattern of deception. Timothy's name was front and center. Within hours, the story was picked up by other outlets. Within a day, clients started pulling contracts. Within a week, the company's stock, Timothy had taken it public 2 years ago, plummeted. And Timothy knew someone had leaked it. He called me in a rage. Did you do this? He shouted, his voice shaking. Did you leak information to the press? I played dumb. What? Timothy, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. Someone's been feeding reporters information about the company. Was it you? How would I even have access to that information? You took everything from me, remember? He was breathing hard. If I find out you're behind this. You'll what? I said, my voice cold. Take me to court again? You've already taken everything. What else can you do to me? He hung up. And I smiled. Because the game was just beginning. The fallout from the article was swift and brutal. Within 2 weeks, Pritchard Consulting Group lost 3 of its biggest clients, contracts worth over $40 million combined. The company's stock, which had been trading at $68 a share, dropped to $22. Employees started jumping ship. Trade publications ran follow-up pieces questioning Timothy's ethics and competence. And then the lawsuits started. 2 former clients filed suit claiming they'd been defrauded. They wanted their money back, plus damages. A class action lawsuit was filed by shareholders claiming Timothy had misrepresented the company's financial health. The walls were closing in. Rachel and I watched it all unfold from my kitchen table in Ohio, tracking every news article, every court filing, every public statement. He's scrambling, Rachel said during one of our meetings. His lawyers are trying to settle the lawsuits quietly, but the damage is done. His reputation's destroyed. Good, I said. But it's not enough. He's still free. He's still living in that mansion with my grandchildren. The investigations take time, Eleanor. The FBI doesn't move fast, but they move thoroughly. Once they start digging into his finances, and they will, they'll find everything. The offshore accounts, the shell companies, all of it. How long? Months. Maybe a year. I didn't want to wait a year. I wanted Timothy to suffer now. What if we leaked more? I asked. What if we gave the press the information about the embezzlement? About the murder? Rachel shook her head. We can't. Not yet. If we show our hand too soon, Timothy will destroy the evidence. He'll move money, delete emails, pay people off. We need the authorities to secure everything first, then we can leak it. She was right. But patience had never been my strong suit. Then, 3 weeks after the article broke, something unexpected happened. Vanessa left him. I found out through social media. One day, Vanessa's Instagram, which had been a constant stream of luxury and perfection, went dark. Her last post was a photo of Luke and Mia at the beach with a caption that read, *family is everything. *. The next day, a mutual acquaintance of Timothy's posted something cryptic. *prayers for the Pritchard family during this difficult time. I texted Rachel, *something's happening. Check Vanessa's social media. *. She called me 10 minutes later. Vanessa filed for divorce. What? I have a source in the San Francisco court system. Vanessa filed this morning. She's asking for full custody of the kids, spousal support, and half of the marital assets. I felt a strange mix of emotions, satisfaction that Timothy's perfect life was falling apart, but also dread. If Vanessa got custody, would I ever see my grandchildren again? Does this help us or hurt us? I asked. Depends on how it plays out. If Vanessa knows about Timothy's fraud, she might use it as leverage in the divorce. That could force things into the open. Or she might stay quiet to protect her own interests. True. But either way, Timothy's distracted right now. He's fighting a war on multiple fronts, business, legal, personal. This is our chance to dig deeper. What do you need me to do? Keep playing the concerned mother. Call him. Offer support. See what he reveals. I didn't want to. The thought of pretending to care about Timothy's well-being made me sick. But I did it anyway. I called him that evening. He answered on the first ring, his voice hoarse. Mom. Timothy, I saw the news. Are you okay? He laughed bitterly. Am I okay? No, Mom, I'm not okay. My company's falling apart, I'm getting sued by everyone, and now Vanessa's divorcing me. I'm so sorry, honey. What happened with Vanessa? She says she can't handle the stress. The negative press, the lawsuits, she says it's too much. She wants out. But you have children together. Doesn't she care about keeping the family intact? Apparently not. She's taking the kids and moving to her mother's place in San Diego. I might not even get joint custody. My heart clenched. San Diego. Farther away from me than ever. That's not fair, I said, and for once, I meant it. Nothing about this is fair, Timothy said. Someone's trying to destroy me, Mom. Someone leaked that information to the press. And I'm going to find out who. Do you have any idea who it could be? I have a few suspects. Former employees, mostly. People I had to let go. But I'm going to hire investigators. I'm going to find out. I felt a flicker of fear. If Timothy hired investigators, how long before they traced the leak back to Rachel? Or to me? Maybe it's time to cut your losses, I said carefully. Maybe it's time to step back from the business, focus on your personal life, try to repair things with Vanessa. Cut my losses? Mom, this is my company. Dad's legacy. I'm not giving up. Dad's legacy. The irony was almost funny. I just don't want to see you destroy yourself over this. I'm not destroyed yet, he said, his voice hardening. I'm going to fight. I'm going to win. And whoever did this to me is going to regret it. There was a coldness in his voice that chilled me. This was the Timothy who'd killed James. The Timothy who'd stolen millions. The Timothy who'd destroy anyone who got in his way. And I'd just put myself in his crosshairs. After we hung up, I called Rachel immediately. He's hiring investigators. We need to be careful. I know. I've been covering my tracks, but we should assume he'll eventually figure out I was involved. We need to move faster. How? I've been in touch with an FBI agent who works white-collar crime. I gave him a preview of what we have. He's interested. Really interested. But he needs more. More what? More proof that the embezzlement is ongoing. More proof that Timothy's actively laundering money. We have 7-year-old evidence from James and current fraud from the contract deals. But to make a criminal case that'll stick, we need to show a continuous pattern. How do we get that? You get close to Timothy again. You get him to trust you. And you get access to his current financial records. How am I supposed to do that? He's not going to just hand me his bank statements. No, but he might ask you for help. Help with what? He's about to lose everything in the divorce. He's going to want to hide assets. And who better to help him hide assets than his elderly, supposedly incompetent mother? I saw where she was going. You think he'll try to put money in my name? It's a classic move. Transfer assets to a family member who's not involved in the divorce or the lawsuits. If he does that, we'll have proof of money laundering and fraud. And we'll have him. It was risky. If Timothy suspected I was setting him up, he'd cut me off completely. But if it worked, okay, I said. I'll do it. Over the next week, I stayed in close contact with Timothy. I called him every few days, played the supportive mother, listened to his complaints about Vanessa, his lawyers, the press. And then, in our third phone call, he took the bait. Mom, I need to ask you something. And I need you to be completely honest with me. Of course, honey. What is it? How much do you trust me? I paused, as if considering the question. You're my son. Of course I trust you. Even after everything that happened with the conservatorship. I understand why you did that. You were trying to protect me. He was quiet for a moment. I need your help with something. Something that could really help me get through this difficult time. Anything. I need to move some assets around. For tax purposes, and to protect them from the divorce. I want to open some accounts in your name. You'd be the official owner, but I'd manage them. It's completely legal, just a financial planning strategy. He was lying, of course. It wasn't legal. It was fraud. But I needed him to believe I'd go along with it. I don't know much about finances, I said slowly. Are you sure this is okay? Absolutely. My lawyers recommended it. All you'd have to do is sign some paperwork. I'd handle everything else. How much money are we talking about? A few million. Maybe 5 or 6. It's money I've earned legitimately, but if Vanessa's lawyers get their hands on it, they'll take half. This way, it's protected. $5 or $6 million. If you think it's the right thing to do, then okay, I said. I'll help you. I could hear the relief in his voice. Thank you, Mom. I'll have my lawyer draw up the documents and send them to you. All you have to do is sign and send them back. Okay. This stays between us, though. No one else can know. Not Vanessa, not her lawyers, no one. I understand. After we hung up, I immediately called Rachel. He just asked me to help him hide money. Perfect. Don't sign anything yet. Forward everything to me first. We need to document it, make copies, and then you'll sign. Once that money moves into accounts in your name, we have him for money laundering, fraud, and violating court orders in the divorce. 2 days later, a FedEx envelope arrived at the house in Ohio. Inside were account opening documents for 3 different banks, one in Nevada, one in Delaware, one in Wyoming. All states known for lax financial regulations. I photographed every page and sent them to Rachel. She sent them to her FBI contact. And then I signed the documents and sent them back to Timothy. Within a week, $5.5 million was transferred into accounts in my name. Money Timothy had stolen. Money that was now evidence. Rachel called me the morning after the transfers cleared. We've got him, Eleanor. The FBI's opening a formal investigation. They're going to freeze the accounts, seize the assets, and start building a criminal case. I felt a rush of triumph so intense it made me dizzy. How long until they arrest him? Soon. They want to gather more evidence first, interview witnesses, secure documents. But they're moving. This is happening. For the first time in months, I let myself believe it. Timothy was going down. And I was going to be there to watch. The FBI moved faster than Rachel expected. 6 weeks after the money transferred into my name, 2 agents showed up at Timothy's home in Palo Alto with a warrant. They seized computers, phones, filing cabinets, anything that might contain evidence of financial crimes. Timothy called me that night, his voice shaking with rage. The FBI just raided my house, Mom. They took everything. They're saying I'm under investigation for fraud, embezzlement, money laundering, all of it. I feigned shock. What? Why would they think that? Because someone's feeding them lies. Someone's trying to frame me. Do they know about the accounts you opened in my name? There was a long pause. How did they know about those? I don't know. You said it was legal. It was legal. It was just financial planning. His voice was rising, frantic. Unless. Mom, did you tell anyone about those accounts? No. Of course not. Who would I tell? But I could hear the suspicion creeping into his voice. The FBI asked me specifically about accounts in Ohio. How would they know to look there unless someone told them? My heart was pounding. Timothy, I would never. I have to go. My lawyers are calling. He hung up. I sat in the kitchen, my hands trembling. He was starting to figure it out. Rachel called 5 minutes later. The raid happened. It's all over the news. I know. Timothy just called me. He's suspicious. That's okay. We're past the point where it matters. The FBI has everything they need. The accounts, the documents, James's files, all of it. They're building a case, and it's airtight. What happens now? Now we wait for the arrest. Could be days, could be weeks. But it's coming. The arrest came 12 days later. I was sitting in the living room when my phone buzzed with a news alert. Tech executive Timothy Pritchard arrested on federal fraud charges. I clicked the link with shaking hands. The article said Timothy had been arrested at his office that morning. He was charged with wire fraud, money laundering, and embezzlement. The FBI alleged he'd stolen over $18 million from his late father's company and defrauded clients out of millions more. His bail was set at $2 million. There was a photo of him being led out of a building in handcuffs, his face pale and stunned. I stared at that photo for a long time. This was it. The moment I'd been working toward for months. Timothy. Humiliated. Exposed. Destroyed. So why didn't I feel satisfied? I called Rachel. It's done. He's arrested. I know. I've been following it. Are you okay? I don't know. I thought I'd feel different. Happy. Maybe. Or vindicated. But I just feel empty. That's normal, Eleanor. Revenge doesn't fill the hole. It just gives you something to focus on. Now that it's over, you have to figure out what comes next. What came next? I'd been so focused on destroying Timothy that I hadn't thought about what would happen after. Would I get my house back? My money? My grandchildren? Or had I just destroyed my son without gaining anything in return? The trial didn't start for another 8 months. 8 months of legal proceedings, motions, delays. 8 months of watching from a distance as Timothy's life continued to unravel. Vanessa's divorce was finalized. She got primary custody of Luke and Mia, the house in San Diego, and a settlement of $3 million, money that would likely be seized once the criminal case concluded, but for now, she had it. Pritchard Consulting Group declared bankruptcy. Over 100 employees lost their jobs. Clients sued. Shareholders sued. The mansion in Palo Alto, my mansion, was put up for sale to cover debts. And through it all, Timothy maintained his innocence. He gave interviews claiming he was being framed. He posted on social media about corrupt FBI agents and vindictive ex-employees. He painted himself as the victim. Some people believed him. Most didn't. But none of it mattered once the trial started. Rachel and I flew to San Francisco for the opening day. We sat in the back of the courtroom, watching as the prosecution laid out their case. They had everything. Bank records showing the transfers. Emails detailing the schemes. Testimony from forensic accountants explaining how Timothy had hidden the money. James's original investigation files, meticulously preserved. And they had me. I was called as a witness on day 4. Walking into that courtroom, seeing Timothy sitting at the defense table in a suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, I felt my hands start to shake. But I kept my head high as I was sworn in. The prosecutor, a sharp woman in her 40s named Jennifer Walsh, led me through my testimony. Mrs. Pritchard, can you tell the court about your relationship with the defendant? He's my son, I said, my voice steady. My only living son. And did there come a time when your son asked you to open bank accounts in your name? Yes. About 6 months ago. Can you tell the court about that conversation? I recounted everything. The phone call. Timothy's claims that it was for tax purposes. The $5.5 million that appeared in accounts I didn't control. Did you know this money was obtained through fraud? Jennifer asked. Not at the time. But I suspected something was wrong. That's when I started my own investigation. And what did you discover? That my son had been stealing from his father's company for over a decade. That he'd embezzled at least $18 million. And that when my younger son, James, discovered the fraud 7 years ago, Timothy had him killed. The courtroom erupted. Timothy's lawyer shot to his feet, objecting. The judge called for order. But the words were out there now. In public. On the record. Timothy stared at me from across the courtroom, his face a mask of shock and betrayal. Good. Let him feel what I felt. The prosecutor asked me to elaborate, and I told the story of finding James's hidden room, reading his letter, discovering the evidence he'd compiled. Mrs. Pritchard, do you believe your son Timothy was responsible for James's death? Objection. Timothy's lawyer shouted. I'll allow it, the judge said. The witness may answer. I looked directly at Timothy. Yes. I believe my son paid someone to murder his brother to cover up his crimes. Timothy's face went white. The prosecutor continued, walking me through the evidence. James's files. The email about the problem that needs handling. The wire transfer to Wei Zhong 3 days before James's death. By the time I stepped down from the witness stand, Timothy looked like he might be sick. His lawyer tried to discredit me during cross-examination, painted me as a bitter mother with a vendetta, someone who'd been declared mentally incompetent by the court. But the documents spoke for themselves. The money trail was undeniable. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Rachel testified. Gerald Martinez testified remotely, carefully avoiding violating his NDA but confirming certain financial irregularities he'd noticed before he left the company. FBI forensic accountants testified. Former employees testified about suspicious practices they'd witnessed. Timothy's defense was that he'd been following his father's practices, that Robert had set up the offshore accounts and shell companies, and Timothy had simply continued managing them as instructed. It was a lie, and everyone knew it. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they returned with the verdict, I was sitting in the front row, directly behind the prosecution table. On the count of wire fraud, how do you find? Guilty. On the count of money laundering, how do you find? Guilty. On the count of embezzlement, how do you find? Guilty. Guilty on all counts. Timothy's face crumpled. His lawyer put a hand on his shoulder. In the gallery, I heard someone gasp, probably one of Timothy's friends who'd stood by him. But I felt nothing. No joy. No satisfaction. Just a deep, aching tiredness. The judge scheduled sentencing for 6 weeks later. During those 6 weeks, something unexpected happened. Vanessa called me. I almost didn't answer. I didn't know what I could possibly say to the woman who'd laughed at me in court, who'd kept my grandchildren from me. But curiosity won out. Eleanor. Her voice was different than I remembered. Smaller. Uncertain. Yes. It's Vanessa. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I need to talk to you. About what? About everything. About Timothy. About what happened. Can we meet? I'm still in San Francisco. I could drive to wherever you are. I didn't know what game she was playing, but I agreed. We met at a coffee shop in Oakland 2 days later. Vanessa looked different. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans and a sweater instead of designer clothes. She looked tired, older, more human. We sat across from each other in a booth, cups of coffee neither of us was drinking between us. "Thank you for meeting me," she said. I didn't respond. I just waited. "I wanted to apologize," she said. "For everything. For how I treated you. For what I said in court. For keeping the kids from you." "Why did you do it?" She looked down at her coffee. "Because Timothy told me to. He said you were unstable, that you were a danger to the children. He showed me medical records, that psychiatrist's evaluation after Robert died. He convinced me you needed to be kept away. And you believed him." I wanted to believe him, because believing him meant I didn't have to look too closely at who he really was. She looked up, her eyes red. I knew something was wrong. I knew Timothy was hiding things. But I told myself it was just stress, just business. I didn't want to know the truth. Because the truth would have meant giving up the lifestyle. She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I'm not proud of it. I was greedy and selfish and I turned a blind eye to everything. And now my children's father is going to prison and we've lost everything and it's my fault for not being brave enough to ask questions." I wanted to hate her. Part of me did hate her. But another part of me saw a woman who'd been manipulated, just like I had been. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because Luke and Mia ask about you. They remember you, Eleanor. They remember baking cookies with you and reading stories and going to the park. And I've kept them from you because I was ashamed and scared and I didn't know how to face you after everything." My throat tightened. "They remember me." "Of course they do. You were a huge part of their lives. And I took that away from them. I took you away from them." She wiped her eyes. "I know I have no right to ask this, but, would you want to see them? Really see them, not just a video call?" I couldn't speak. I just nodded. "Okay," she said. "Okay. I'll make it happen. I'll bring them to you, wherever you want." We made plans. Tentative, careful plans. She would bring Luke and Mia to Ohio in 2 weeks, after Timothy's sentencing. We'd spend a weekend together, let them get reacquainted with me gradually. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. Timothy's sentencing came on a cold November morning. I sat in the same courtroom where he'd taken everything from me 2 years earlier, watching as the judge reviewed his case. The prosecutor asked for 25 years. Timothy's lawyer asked for leniency, citing his previously clean record, his charitable work, his 2 young children who needed their father. The judge wasn't swayed. "Mr. Pritchard, you were given every advantage in life. A loving family. A quality education. A successful business handed to you by your father. And you squandered it all through greed and deceit. You stole from your own family. You defrauded your clients. And the evidence strongly suggests you were complicit in your brother's death, though that crime is not before this court." Timothy's head dropped. "I hereby sentence you to 20 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. You are ordered to pay restitution of $18 million to the victims of your fraud." 20 years. Timothy would be in his 60s when he got out. Luke and Mia would be adults. He was taken away in handcuffs. He looked back once as they led him out, his eyes scanning the courtroom until they found mine. I don't know what he was looking for. Forgiveness? Understanding? Pity? I had none of those things to give him. After the sentencing, Rachel and I stood outside the courthouse in the pale sunlight. "It's over," she said. "Yeah. How do you feel?" I thought about it. Tired. But also, lighter, somehow. Like I've been carrying something heavy for so long, and I finally got to put it down. "What will you do now?" "Go back to Ohio. See my grandchildren. Figure out how to rebuild." "What about the house in Palo Alto?" "The house. The $5 million mansion Timothy had stolen from me. It's being sold to pay restitution," I said. "I could fight for it, try to get it back. But I don't think I want it anymore. That house is full of ghosts." Rachel nodded. "I get that. What about you? What's next for you?" She smiled. "I got job offers from 3 different firms after the trial. Turns out taking down a white-collar criminal is good for your reputation. I'm thinking about starting my own forensic accounting practice, specializing in fraud investigation." "You'd be good at that." "We'd be good at that," she said. "If you ever want a partner." I looked at her, this woman who'd become an unlikely ally and friend. "You know what? I might take you up on that." We parted ways outside the courthouse, promising to stay in touch. I flew back to Ohio the next day and spent the next 2 weeks cleaning James's house from top to bottom, preparing for Luke and Mia's visit. When Vanessa's car pulled up on a Saturday morning, I was standing on the porch, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. Luke and Mia climbed out of the car, looking uncertain, shy. "Hi, Grandma," Luke said. And just like that, I started crying. I knelt down, my old knees protesting, and opened my arms. "Come here, sweetheart." Luke hesitated for just a moment, then ran into my arms. Mia followed. I held my grandchildren and sobbed into their hair, all the grief and rage and longing of the past 2 years pouring out of me. "I missed you so much," I whispered. "I missed you so, so much." "We missed you too, Grandma," Mia said, her small voice muffled against my shoulder. Vanessa stood by the car, watching us, her own eyes wet. That weekend, we baked cookies. We read stories. We went to a park and fed ducks. We talked and laughed and slowly, carefully, started to rebuild what had been broken. It wasn't perfect. There were awkward moments. There were questions I didn't know how to answer. Why haven't we seen you? Why is Daddy in jail? Are you going to leave again? But we got through them together. On Sunday evening, as Vanessa was packing the kids back into the car, Luke turned to me and said, "Can we come back next month?" "Of course," I said, my voice breaking. "You can come back whenever you want." After they left, I stood in the empty house, surrounded by the remnants of our weekend together. Dishes in the sink, toys scattered on the floor, a child's drawing stuck to the refrigerator with a magnet. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt something I'd forgotten how to feel. Hope. 3 months after Timothy's sentencing, I did something I'd been avoiding. I went to James's grave. I'd been back in California once since the trial, to deal with legal matters, sign documents transferring what remained of my assets back into my name, meet with lawyers about the conservatorship that was finally being dissolved. But I hadn't been able to bring myself to visit the cemetery. I wasn't sure I could face it. Face him. Face the reality of what Timothy had done. But on a grey February morning, I rented a car and drove to the cemetery in Palo Alto where James and Robert were buried. The cemetery was quiet, peaceful. Rolling hills dotted with oak trees. Stone markers stretching out in neat rows. It was beautiful in a somber way. I found James's grave easily. I'd been here for the burial, though the day was a blur of grief and shock. Robert's grave was right next to it. They'd been buried side by side, the way I'd wanted. I stood there for a long time, staring at James's headstone. Asterisk James Robert Pritchard asterisk. Asterisk beloved son and brother asterisk. Asterisk 1984-2018 asterisk. Asterisk the poet who saw beauty in everything asterisk. I'd chosen that epitaph. James had loved poetry, loved finding meaning in small moments. He would have liked it. "Hi, baby," I whispered, my voice cracking. "I'm sorry it took me so long to come back." The wind rustled through the oak trees. A bird called somewhere in the distance. "I found your room," I said. "I found everything you left for me. And I did what you asked." I stopped him, James. Timothy's in prison. He can't hurt anyone else. Tears were streaming down my face now. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you. I'm so sorry I didn't see what he was. If I'd paid more attention, if I'd been a better mother. I broke down, collapsing to my knees on the cold grass. I'm so sorry, I sobbed. I'm so sorry. I don't know how long I stayed there, crying into my hands. But eventually, the tears slowed. The grief was still there, it would always be there, but it felt different somehow. Less sharp. More like an ache than a wound. I stood up slowly, brushing dirt off my knees. I placed my hand on James's headstone. Thank you, I whispered. For leaving me the evidence. For trying to protect me even after you were gone. I love you, sweetheart. I'll always love you. I visited Robert's grave next, spending a few quiet moments talking to him, telling him everything that had happened. I'd been angry at Robert for a while, angry that he'd brought Timothy into the business, angry that he hadn't seen what Timothy was capable of. But the anger had faded, replaced by a sad understanding that parents don't always know their children as well as they think they do. As I was walking back to my car, I saw someone standing near the cemetery entrance. A woman, maybe in her late 20s, with dark curly hair and a long black coat. She was watching me. When our eyes met, she started walking toward me. Eleanor Pritchard, she called out. I stopped, wary. Yes. She reached me, slightly out of breath. I'm sorry to approach you like this. I know this is a weird place for an introduction. My name is Hannah Burke. Rachel's my older sister. Rachel's sister. Oh. Hello. Rachel told me you'd be in California this week. I've been hoping to meet you. She glanced back at the graves. I'm sorry for your loss. Both of them. Thank you. I wanted to thank you, Hannah said. For what you did. For exposing Timothy Pritchard. I didn't understand. Why would you need to thank me? Hannah's expression darkened. Because Timothy's company destroyed my fiancé's life. She explained that her fiancé, Marcus, no, wait, I'd been told not to use that name. She explained that her fiancé, David, had worked for Pritchard Consulting Group 3 years ago. He discovered some financial irregularities and reported them to HR. A week later, he was fired for performance issues. When he tried to find another job in the industry, he found himself blacklisted. No one would hire him. His reputation had been destroyed. He fell into a deep depression, Hannah said, her voice shaking. He couldn't understand why his career had been ruined when he'd only tried to do the right thing. 2 years ago, he took his own life. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I'm so sorry. When Rachel told me she was investigating Timothy, I gave her everything David had collected, emails, documents, all of it. And when I heard about the trial, when I heard Timothy was finally being held accountable, I felt like David could finally rest. Another victim. Another life destroyed by Timothy's greed and cruelty. How many more were there? How many people had Timothy hurt that I'd never know about? I'm glad I could help, I said quietly. Your fiancé deserved better. So did your sons, Hannah said. Both of them. We stood there for a moment, 2 women bound by grief and the wreckage Timothy had left behind. I'm starting a support group, Hannah said. For people affected by corporate fraud and white-collar crime. Victims, family members, anyone who's been hurt by it. Rachel suggested I reach out to you. We'd love to have you involved, if you're interested. I thought about it. For so long, I'd been focused solely on revenge, on destroying Timothy. But maybe there was something more meaningful I could do with what I'd learned. I'd like that, I said. Send me the details. We exchanged contact information, and I watched her walk away, back to her car, carrying her grief the same way I carried mine. Before I left California, I did one more thing. I drove to the house. The mansion in Palo Alto that Robert and I had built, where I'd raised my sons, where I'd lived for 30 years. It had sold quickly. Some tech executive and his family had bought it. I'd heard they'd already started renovations, modernizing it, making it theirs. I parked across the street and just looked at it. The exterior was the same cream-colored walls, the same red tile roof, the same mature landscaping. But it didn't feel like mine anymore. It was just a house. I thought about all the memories inside those walls. James as a toddler, running through the halls. Timothy's high school graduation party on the back patio. Robert working in his study, glasses perched on his nose. Family dinners. Holiday celebrations. Ordinary Tuesday evenings watching TV. So much life had happened in that house. So much joy. So much love. And so much had been lost. But looking at it now, I realized I didn't want it back. Rachel had been right. That house was full of ghosts. And I needed to move forward, not backward. I took one last look, then drove away. That evening, I had dinner with Rachel at a small Italian restaurant in San Francisco. "How are you doing?" she asked after we'd ordered. "Really doing better," I said. "Not great, but better. I saw James's grave today. Met your sister. Hannah told me. She really appreciated you taking the time to talk to her. She told me about her fiancé. About how Timothy destroyed his career." Rachel nodded. "David was a good guy. He didn't deserve what happened to him." "None of them did. James, David, your brother. All the employees who lost their jobs when the company went under. All the clients who were defrauded. Timothy left a trail of destruction, and most of those people will never see justice." "But some of them will," Rachel said. "The restitution Timothy's required to pay, it'll go to the victims. It won't make them whole, but it's something." "Is it enough?" She considered the question. "No. Justice is never enough to undo the harm. But it's all we have." We ate in comfortable silence for a while. "I've been thinking about your offer," I said eventually. "About partnering on a forensic accounting practice." "Yeah. I want to do it. I want to help other people who've been victimized by fraud. I want to use what I learned to make a difference." Rachel smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that. I've already started drawing up business plans. We'd need to get you trained. Forensic accounting has some specific certifications, but with your experience on this case, I think you'd be a natural." "At 63, I'm going back to school. Is that a problem?" I thought about it and smiled. "No. I think I like it." We spent the rest of dinner talking about the business, about our plans, about the future. It felt good to have something to work toward, something positive and meaningful. When I flew back to Ohio the next day, I felt different. Lighter. Like I'd finally put down a burden I'd been carrying for too long. Luke and Mia were coming to visit again in 2 weeks. Vanessa and I were slowly, carefully building a relationship based on honesty and accountability. She was in therapy, working through her guilt and her complicity. I was in therapy too, processing the grief and trauma of the past few years. We had a long way to go. Both of us. But we were moving forward. The house in Ohio was starting to feel like home. I'd renovated James's hidden room, turning it into a small office where I could work. The filing cabinets full of evidence were gone, turned over to the FBI, but I'd kept James's letter, framed on the wall as a reminder. Some evenings, I'd sit in that office and read through the notes I'd taken during the investigation. I'd think about everything that had happened, everything I'd lost, everything I'd gained. And I'd think about what I'd tell someone else who'd been betrayed, who'd lost everything, who was consumed by rage and grief. I'd tell them that revenge is complicated. That it doesn't heal you the way you think it will. That justice and revenge aren't the same thing, and sometimes, even when you get both, there's still a hole inside you where the person you lost used to be. But I'd also tell them that you're stronger than you think. That you can survive things you never imagined surviving. That even in the darkest moments, when you think you have nothing left, you can find a reason to keep going. For me, that reason was my grandchildren. And James's memory. And the possibility of helping others avoid what I'd been through. Timothy would spend the next 20 years in prison. His empire was gone. His reputation was destroyed. His family was fractured. I'd gotten my revenge. But more importantly, I'd gotten my life back. And that was worth more than any amount of vengeance. It's been a year since Timothy went to prison. A year since I stood in that courtroom and watched him be led away in handcuffs. A year since I reclaimed my life from the man who tried to destroy it. I'm sitting in my office in James's house, my house now, on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Luke and Mia were here yesterday. They've been coming every month, sometimes more often. We're building something together, something real and honest. They call me Grandma again without hesitation. They tell me about school, about their friends, about their dreams. Mia wants to be a veterinarian. Luke wants to play professional soccer. I tell them they can be anything they want, do anything they want, and I mean it. Vanessa drops them off and picks them up, and we've settled into a careful friendship. She's dating someone new, a teacher, she tells me, someone kind and stable. She seems happier, lighter, like she's finally stopped running from her own guilt. The forensic accounting practice Rachel and I started is thriving. We've taken on 6 cases in the past year, helping families uncover fraud, assisting the FBI with white-collar investigations, providing expert testimony in court. It turns out that bringing down one high-profile criminal is excellent marketing. I completed my certification last month. At 64 years old, I'm a licensed forensic accountant. James would have been proud. Robert too, I think. Hannah Burke's support group meets twice a month. I attend when I can. We're a collection of broken people trying to put ourselves back together. Victims of Ponzi schemes, embezzlement, corporate fraud. We share our stories. We help each other heal. It's not enough to fill the hole where James used to be. Nothing ever will be. But it's something. I visit his grave when I'm in California. I tell him about Luke and Mia, about the work I'm doing, about how I'm trying to honor his memory by stopping people like Timothy from hurting others. I like to think he'd approve. But there's something I haven't done, something I've been avoiding. I haven't written to Timothy. He's written to me. 3 letters in the past year, all forwarded from the prison in Victorville, California, where he's serving his sentence. I haven't opened them. They sit in a drawer in my office, unopened, unread. I don't know what he could possibly say to me. Sorry? An explanation? A justification? None of it would matter. None of it would change what he did. But lately, I've been thinking about writing to him. Not to send it, I'd never send it. But to write down everything I need to say, everything I've been carrying, and then put it away forever. So that's what I'm doing now. Timothy, I've started this letter 100 times in my head. I've imagined what I'd say to you if I could. And every time, I get angry all over again. So angry I can barely breathe. You killed my son. You killed James, your brother, the person who loved you despite everything. And you did it to protect your secrets, your money, your reputation. I've tried to understand how you could do that. How you could look at your own brother and decide his life was worth less than your freedom. But I can't. I'll never understand that. You stole from your father. From the company he built with his own hands, the company he was so proud to pass on to you. You betrayed his trust, his memory, everything he stood for. You betrayed me. You manipulated me, gaslit me, had me declared incompetent, took my home, my money, my dignity. You kept my grandchildren from me and made them think I'd abandoned them. You destroyed so many lives. Hannah's fiancé. Rachel's brother. All the employees who lost their jobs when your company collapsed. All the clients you defrauded. And you never once thought about anyone but yourself. For a long time, I wanted you to suffer the way I suffered. I wanted you to feel the same pain, the same betrayal, the same crushing weight of loss. And maybe you do. Maybe sitting in that prison cell, you finally understand what it feels like to lose everything. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you still think you're the victim. Maybe you're sitting there telling yourself that you were set up, that everyone betrayed you, that none of this is your fault. I don't know. And honestly, I don't care anymore. Because I've realized something. You don't get to take up space in my head anymore. You don't get to control my emotions, my choices, my life. I spent 2 years consumed by revenge. And I got it. You're in prison. Your reputation is destroyed. Your company is gone. Your family is broken. I won. But winning didn't make me whole again. It didn't bring James back. It didn't erase the years of grief and pain. What made me whole was rebuilding. Connecting with my grandchildren. Starting a meaningful career. Finding purpose beyond vengeance. So this is me, letting you go. I'm not forgiving you. I'll never forgive you. What you did is unforgivable. But I'm releasing you. I'm releasing the anger, the bitterness, the obsession with making you pay. Asterisk you'll serve your time. You'll live with what you've done. That's between you and whatever conscience you might have left. Asterisk as for me, I'm moving forward. I'm living a life that has nothing to do with you. Asterisk I hope Luke and Mia grow up to be nothing like you. I hope they inherit their grandfather's integrity, their uncle's gentleness, their grandmother's strength. Asterisk I hope they never have to know the full extent of what you did. Asterisk and I hope you think about them every day in that cell. I hope you wonder what they're doing, what they're becoming, and I hope you understand that you gave up the right to know them when you chose greed over family. Asterisk you were my son once. I loved you with everything I had. Asterisk but you're not my son anymore. You're just a cautionary tale. A reminder of what happens when ambition becomes corruption, when self-interest becomes cruelty. Asterisk I'm done with you, Timothy. Asterisk I'm finally, blessedly done. Asterisk Eleanor. I sit back and read the letter. My hands are shaking, tears streaming down my face, but there's also a strange sense of peace settling over me. This is closure. Real closure. Not revenge, not justice, but the simple act of saying everything I needed to say and then walking away. I fold the letter carefully and put it in an envelope. I seal it but don't address it. It doesn't need an address. It's never going anywhere. I place it in the drawer with Timothy's unopened letters, then close the drawer firmly. Done. My phone buzzes with a text from Rachel. Dinner tonight? I have news about a new case. I smile and type back. Absolutely. Your place or mine? Mine. 7 p.m. Bring wine. I glance at the clock. I have a few hours. I think I'll go for a walk, maybe stop by the grocery store, pick up something nice for dinner. Just ordinary things. Simple things. The things that make up a life. As I'm getting ready to leave, I pause by the framed letter on my office wall. James's letter, the one that started all of this. You're stronger than you think, Mom. He was right. I've learned that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about breaking and then finding a way to put yourself back together, piece by piece. It's about standing up when everything in you wants to stay down. It's about fighting for justice, even when the system seems rigged against you. It's about choosing to rebuild instead of surrendering to bitterness. If you're watching this from wherever you are in the world, and you've been betrayed by someone you trusted, someone you loved, I want you to know something. You are stronger than you think. You will survive this. And one day, you'll wake up and realize that the person who tried to destroy you doesn't control your story anymore. You do. I lost my son. I lost my home. I lost years of my life to grief and rage. But I found myself again. I found purpose. I found a way forward. And if I can do it at 64, after everything I've been through, then anyone can. So don't give up. Don't let them win by destroying who you are. Fight. Rebuild. Move forward. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning. I walk out of my office, closing the door behind me. The afternoon sun is streaming through the windows, warming the house. Outside, I can hear birds singing, children playing in a nearby yard. Life goes on. And for the first time in years, I'm truly grateful to be part of it. I grab my coat and my keys, pause at the front door to look back at the house. This house that held so many secrets, so much pain, but also gave me the tools to reclaim my life. Thank you, James, I whisper to the empty rooms. For everything. Then I step outside into the afternoon light, ready for whatever comes next. Because I'm not done yet. Not by a long shot. I'm Eleanor Pritchard. I'm a survivor. I'm a grandmother. I'm a forensic accountant. I'm someone who fought back and won. And my story is still being written. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. If you or someone you know has been affected by fraud, betrayal, or family abuse, please know that you're not alone. There are resources, there are people who care, and there is always a way forward. Check the description box below for more stories like this, stories of survival, justice, and the strength it takes to rebuild when everything falls apart.